Hi everyone, it's Miss Hakvari in the library. I wanted to tell you about one of our high school book awards titles for 2020-2021. It's called The Astonishing Color of After, and it's by Emily Pan. This is a book that I read. It's very unique. The language is really, really beautiful. The topics within the book are kind of heartbreaking, so it's a very emotional book, but in a satisfying way, if that makes sense. In this book, the main character, her name is Lee. Her full name is Lee Chen Sanders. So the book starts out with kind of the worst event that you can imagine. Her mother has committed suicide, but Lee is quite sure that her mother isn't gone. She believes, is very sure, that her mom has actually turned into a bird and is still visiting her, is still around. Her father, understandably, is pretty concerned at how Lee is taking the news of her mother's death and her mother's suicide. And so his solution to that is to send Lee to visit the grandparents that she doesn't even know in Taiwan. And Lee doesn't really speak much of their language. Grandparents don't speak much English. Lee finds herself in a completely new place, a new culture, and is trying to navigate that all while dealing with the events that surround her mother's death and trying to piece together why this even happened in the first place. Like I said, it's a really difficult story. It's very difficult to lose someone. It's even more difficult to lose them to suicide, to think that they were in that much pain that they decided to end their life. And Lee really wrestles with that. The other thing that makes that difficult for her is when her mom was dying, Lee was actually with her best friend. And she feels like she kind of abandoned her mother in the moment that she needed her most. So this is very much a story that deals with real life issues, but it also has this little bit of fantasy and magic to it, and it kind of alternates between those two things. So if you like books that have a little bit of magical characteristics to them, have a little bit of fantasy, or if you like those true to life stories that deal with real issues, depression, suicide, grief, loss, meeting family that maybe you've never known, dealing with another culture. All of those things would be a good reason to read this book. If you like rich stories with beautiful language, that would be another great reason to read this book. I highly recommend The Astonishing Color of After.